Actually.
And then,
Welcome to our 34th episode of Apex Instant Tips, coming to you live every Friday at 12:05 Eastern Time for 5 minutes only from Finland, of all places. Tervetuloa Suomesta. My name is Hayden.
wow, Hayden, I had no idea that you were so multilingual.
Yes.
But that's an exciting trip. Well, welcome back. I must say, usually I have at least, I would say, a good familiarity with the tip that we are presenting. But today, I am truly an enthusiastic novice. I know a little bit, I've used it a little bit, but I am really looking forward to learning something significantly myself in just 5 minutes.
Yes, and I think today's episode is a good answer to last week's episode, and then it builds on concepts of deployment. And so viewers who enjoyed last week's episode, I think will also enjoy this week's episode.
Great. It's a little bit of just another approach on how you can do deployments. So what do you got?
Well, this week I have done nothing. I am counting on the presence of our friend and colleague Martin D'Souza to join us.
Another celebrity guest in the Insum cinematic universe. Martin.
Welcome, Martin.
Good morning. How are you?
I love celebrities.
Not a celebrity.
Well, today you are. On this show, you
Awesome.
qualify. On this show, you
thank you.
absolutely qualify as a celebrity.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this. And do you guys want me to go right into it?
Yes, let's share your
Tell them what we're
screen
doing. Yeah, share your screen.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to tell you what you're doing, or what we're all going to do. One of the biggest problems I see a lot of is where do you start? And where do you start is a very vague thing of when people start projects, sometimes it's overwhelming, or especially who are new to version control and they want to, like, how do we start an Apex project, right? Where do we put our files? Where do we do all this? And teams can debate that for weeks. And by that time, it's like nothing's been done except debating where the code goes. I've seen it's happened over and over again, or people also start and do their own thing, which is not good or bad. It just is what it is. But sometimes it's maybe not the most optimal thing. And what I'm going to do today is demo something on how to get started. We will have a project with an existing Apex application, get it fully version controlled, and create a build file, all in under 5 minutes. That's it. Now, I'm going to blow by this very quickly. You're probably, for those that are watching, might have to replay some of it. All of it is documented in the repo I'm going to show, and maybe you guys can put that in the show notes, Michelle.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
so
no. We definitely have code names. It's Mishka, if you want to refer to it.
Mishka. Okay. So we'll everything will be available, and everything I show you has been on open source. And while I was at Insum, just to let you know, it's not my own personal view. We curated this with Vincent Morneau and Jorge Rimblas at the time. So there's a lot of different perspectives that went into what we're showing you. So don't think, if you're not doing the same thing or you think it's kind of ridiculous, there's a lot of good reasons of why certain things were in there. And again, if you read through everything and spend the time, it's going to take more than 5 minutes, you'll see that there's a lot of logic that makes sense. That said, the whole concept of this is to give you a starter template, and then you do what you want with it. Some people are going to have different needs and different requirements.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're probably already at 5 minutes on the intro, so we should probably
jump
in.
Well, it's very important we understand what we're going to do. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to start the timer, and already in. So if you go to this URL, the one in the show notes, there's this button in GitHub called use this template. I'm going to create it. I'm going to call this demo 1. Right? We're going to do this in under 5 minutes, and it's going to clone the entire repository into my own repo, and I'm going to get this onto my desktop. Git clone, and then.
And we were looking at your VS Code for anyone wondering.
That's correct.
Right, but this would be the same thing you'd do in just any terminal on your Mac if you're not using VS Code. But
am I on VPN?
Oh boy, it's always the challenge, right? When you start doing something. here we go. Oh, and it looks like we have.
Looks like the timer has frozen.
It has, but I bet when he comes back, he'll have used up a full 30 seconds. And so I'm going to try and fill this gap because we are live and anything can happen live. But Hayden, you and I have been through this process. We've done this ourselves. I've actually done it a few times now, and I'm really pleased with the layout and the overall functionality.
Looks like we have Martin back.
All right. He's knack. All right.
And Martin,
all right,
does your timer still say 4:13 still?
I paused it at 4 minutes. Hopefully, are you guys seeing the screen?
Oh, here.
Okay.
Here we go. Excellent. Yes.
I'm going to go right back in. I had to disconnect, but long story short, this is what you missed. It was
Perfect.
Awe-inspiring thing. All right.
Beautiful.
So let's go into here. Demo 01. I'm going to put this into my code editor. Now, there's a couple of things I need to add, and the first thing is just setting your schema and your app IDs, and I've got that here, right? So I'm just going to use app 100. That's part of my my repository, and then now the first thing I'm going to do is export my application. So you'll notice that it says change me task label. This is actually going to change in a second. It's based entirely on your project folder. And the next thing you're going to notice is you get an error. And this is all documented, and there's a good reason why. If we click here, what we have to actually do is define our username and connection strings. I'm not going to go into this too much. Again, it's all in there. And so now you'll notice that it says the project name right there, right? We did nothing. I'm going to export this, and this is going to export my application. I'm on the OCI cloud, and it's going to get app 100 and split it. So that's the first part. And you'll see this come in the Apex folder. So that was, again, I just hit, if you want to know it in code, it's run task, and then I just did that. So there's 100, and then you're going to actually see the split file come through. So next thing I'm going to do, sorry?
That was fast.
Yeah, next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually generate an object. So I'm going to generate a view. And this is, you don't have to do this, but it just helps like speed it up. So this is we're going to create the emp view. And what it will actually do is put a file in the views called vemp, and it already did my create or replace, right? And this is all based on templates. You can all determine if you want to see what they look like. This is the template for the view. It just changes the change me. So we'll just do select star from emp, right? And now I can actually compile this right in VS Code. And everything I show you, by the way, lives in the repository. So everything I have, all the team has, not just me. Oh, you can see I got a little bit of an error. There should have been an error. And now I'm going to create a package, right? I'm going to generate an object. I'm going to choose package, and I'm going to call it package emp.
Very cool. And
it will open up 2 files. So the package spec is automatically generated. I can compile that, and the package, there's no errors. Let's just do the package body. This is what it will be like. You can rename it to whatever you want. And if I run this, I compile it again, it should show me some errors around line 29 if we scroll up. And so there I have some ... so I can just change that, and I can compile again, and there's no errors. So now I've done that. So I've created 2 files in a view, and let's actually create a build script. So if I go back into my terminal, I can actually run build, and then build.sh, and I just put the version number. There's a reason why we do this. And what this is actually going to do is look at all my views, all my packages, all my Apex applications, and generate for you a complete build thing. And it's actually going to put it in the release folder. You'll see that there's this new file generated for you called all packages and all views. So it puts it in order, puts specs and then bodies, and then you have all your views in here. So if I had created multiple views, and then if I go in the release folder, it's all there. So now I can actually build my application. I did that all in under 5 minutes with a VPN break.
That's great. And I'll point out, I don't use VS Code, but I've used exactly this by just using my favorite editors. And you put the files in the right locations in your repository, and everything still works. So there's some things that VS Code will do if you want to use VS Code. If you don't, though, it absolutely works great just by putting the right elements in the repository. But
Well,
you're right.
congrats for getting that in under 5 minutes, Martin. That was very efficiently told.
Yeah,
And I will I will remove your shared screen from the monitor if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
and I will say that that was truly an impressive 5 minutes that I will watch 2 or 3 more times
Yes.
because I've done all of it, and yet I still want to see how I can do it that fast. I've done it many times, and like I said, several times anyway, I cannot do it that fast. But for those of our viewers that have come for truly just 5 minutes, I'm going to ask that you do all the things. I've heard something about we've got like 2,000 people have sent letters to their moms about the show or something like that, right? Is that what
We're
it is?
a handful of viewers away from having a handful of subscribers away from having 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if we can persuade you to subscribe, please do.
Right, there we go. Or send a letter to your mom, whatever it might be. So that was great, Martin. We usually do a wisdom of the week. We talk a little bit about any questions people might have on the topic. Sometimes people squeeze in other questions. And then we, I think, have an off-topic tip. Am I right, Hayden?
We do, yes.
So we'll do those things now. So my wisdom of the week was inspired by something that I recently encountered. And that's that if you find yourself writing a query to find some data for the application that you're working on, you have likely just identified a missing feature of that app. Because if you can't go find the data you're looking for using the app, well, somebody's going to try and do that if you're doing it by writing a query. So that's my wisdom of the week.
I like it, yes. A good framework by which you can identify how to continue improving your application.
Right, time to write a new story. If you're writing a query, you should be writing a story. Maybe that's what my wisdom of the week should be. If you're writing a query, you should be writing a story. Okay. So there we go.
That's good. I like it. Yeah.
All right. So Plemon has a question. I'm going to dish it right to you, Martin.
Yeah. So do you want me to just read the question on YouTube?
Go right ahead.
So Plemon says that can you save into the repo and compile into your OCI at the same time? That's actually what I did. The only thing I didn't do was commit and push, and that was 2 extra lines. The scripts don't do that automatically for you. The reason being is you may want to revert if you're not happy with something, or if you have collisions. There's various different things, but everything I demoed was live against a Git repo. If I had just executed git commit and your git add, git commit, and git push, it would have gone up to GitHub or wherever you want.
That's the same of really any editor that you're using. If you, any editor that will compile. So like SQL Developer, you can save and compile in a single step. VS Code will do that. I think I can do that with Sublime even. But yes, it depends on if your editor is hooked up into doing those things. Oh, interesting.
Oh, that could be a topic for another tip. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'll just say one thing on the wallet that people will get confused with, and it is kind of confusing. Read the notes because it talks about this. Your wallet you download from OCI is going to be a zip file. In there's going to be something called TNS names, and open up the TNS names, and at the last end of the right side, it says directory equals, and it does some path. Just change it to $TNS underscore name, i.e. your environment variable in your CLI or terminal. And that's critical because then paths actually, it expects in a certain path. And if you have it somewhere else, which I'd recommend to do, then you have to just manually change that. And again, it's documented in the repo how to do that and why to do that.
Yeah, and then, you definitely can use that wallet. It's really about, that we could do a whole week on just like TNS settings and listener settings and all of those, but it's part of that fundamental underlying networking. So if you've already configured your wallet to Apex instance, do you need to define it again here?
Yes.
Well, you only need one wallet. Go ahead, Martin.
I think it might be confusing different wallets for different purposes. This wallet is to connect to the database. So in OCI, when you click, again, we're going a little off topic, but it's good to know you have to click database connections. You're going to download an instance wallet. That has to exist on everyone's laptop. You could put it in your version control system. I highly recommend not to do it for very good reasons and security purposes. So that everyone has to do, but that's only if you're using OCI type connections where a wallet's required. If you're just internal, like most organizations that are just developing in-house that aren't on OCI, you probably just have a connection string and that's it. You don't even have to worry about the wallet.
Right. And it's interesting. You mentioned most organizations. I think it's for me, it's actually becoming maybe 50-50 even how often I'm connecting via something with OCI and via the sort of more traditional on-premises kind of thing. But
interesting.
Yeah, but that may just be my own experience. Well, I'm sure it is my own experience. So
I'll jump in with this thought. For viewers who are intimidated by the number of automations and bells and whistles available in this repo, don't be. I use this repo all the time, and I didn't know that a lot of these automations even were present there. So, for example, I just learned that you could auto-generate a package template through the repo. That's news to me. So most of the automations are you can do without, and you'll still find the repo very useful.
Absolutely agree. It's got well, to Martin's point, it's about a place to start. And you very well may decide to start there and make changes to the repo, and that's all fine. In fact, I know we're going to continue to maintain this. It's an open source repo, so if people want to make suggestions to changing it, that's fine too. But we will be continuing to add features to it or make some changes. So can be used for more than one application at a time.
Yes. So there's a file in there called project configuration or I think it's project.sh. And in there you can put a comma delimited list of Apex applications. It started off as one, but now you put a comma. So if you have app 100, 200, 300, you just put 102, 200, 300, and it does it all for you. It takes care of everything. It auto generates the release for all 3 applications and exports.
I haven't used that feature, Martin. Does it do a single release for all 3 applications, or is it 3 separate releases?
The way it's built, and again, people are free to change this as you need.
Sure.
It will do, by default, it will put all 3 applications in the release file. It will actually inject it in and saying install app 100, 200, 300. Maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't, but that's the nice thing. It's a starter place location.
Right, and I think that makes sense because likely if you're doing this in a single repo, that the 3 applications are using a consolidated set of underlying objects, that kind of thing. So super.
Yeah, and Benjamin, it will export all 3 at the same time too. Pardon the interruption, Anton.
No, that's great. I'm excited. I think it's. I hope this show actually increases use of this starter template, because I think it's a great place to start, but also a great place for us to get additional feedback from people for things that might be useful for everyone. So
I think my favorite thing about the template, to sort of perhaps build on similar concepts that people have already mentioned, is that in terms of organizing your code, there's so many arbitrary choices you have to make. And if you're willing to just settle for this default, you don't have to worry about it. All of the questions that you might have about where should I put this file, or how should I divide up this code, is implied.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, do we have any? It looks like we don't have any other questions, but we don't want to keep people beyond the 5 minutes. We sneak in a few more, but we do have an off-topic tip, Hayden, that I'm excited for.
Yes. So if we can share my screen. Yeah. So I often find myself working in Excel, even though I even though I work in an Oracle environment, or in this example, Google spreadsheets. And it is often useful for me to extract uniqueness from a list of values. And I learned just the other day that it is possible to invoke a unique formula to extract uniqueness from a list. So, ta-da, that is my tip.
Well, I think you will likely have to wear your asbestos suit for our next show with the flames that might come out from the use of Excel. But I too,
well, Google spreadsheets, not necessarily Excel. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
but this is an Excel. It's valid in both Excel and Google spreadsheets.
Take your pick. Let's just call it the generic spreadsheet. But I too find myself, pulling up a spreadsheet for all kinds of reasons. There we go. Well, I don't know if we've had enough people smashing bells or what are the other things? Hitting the thumbs up. It looks like there's a subscribe thing.
Subscribing.
What's the splat in the middle of the screen?
That's sharing.
Sharing. Okay. Well, whatever those things are, I guess you're supposed to do all of them.
Yes.
And we don't even have a symbol. We don't even have a symbol for sending a letter to your mom. There should be an envelope or something up there, but
I agree.
A stamp. Okay. Well, nobody wants to hear more of that. Why don't we we'll let everybody go. But thanks so much for joining, and until next week.
See you next Friday.
Big thanks to you, Martin. Bye-bye.